web hosting services were treated as cash cows. It was very safe, recurring revenue, but for the first time in the history of internet, we see that there might be something which can interrupt these businesses.
It makes so much mess now, but at the same time,
There is no proof that AI is changing the industry. In the past, if you wanted to install CRM, for example, you were choosing some open source thing. In the end, open source tools lost the fight with software as a service. They were better, constantly improving. With vibe coding, the things can
shift back.
The companies like Rocket, DirectAdmin, Kinsta, GetFlywheel, Hostinger, SiteGround, they are doing complex things and nice things because they can. That's it.
The distance between the small guys that are relying on third-party systems and then the big guys that have their own, the distance will be even bigger with AI, innovation and all the stuff around it.
In the end, web hosting is all about symbiosis between web hosting provider, agencies, and freelancers. We need to cooperate together because in the end, the end user, as for now, needs our help.
Hello everyone and welcome to the second part of our commentary together with Łukasz Gawior, my co-founder at Web Hosting Today. In the last episode we were talking about the things that we thought were the most influential in the web hosting industry. In this episode we will be talking about trends and things that we see that are happening and our predictions for 2026. So yes, Łukasz, let's start with the trends. And I think, well, it's really hard not to talk about the big elephant in the room, which is AI and the disruption affecting almost every digital market. I wish we would not be talking about AI really, but it's just, you can feel it in the air that there's just too much happening around it. And I'm pretty sure there will be something big happening this year. One thing is site builders and vibe coding platforms. Let's put it aside for now. The thing that I wanted to start with is how AI is now affecting SaaS businesses, how AI is affecting agencies as well. I even saw Igor's input recently, but it's not the only one. I've heard it before that for many organizations, instead of using big, like heavy CRMs like HubSpot, for example, they are switching over to their own vibe-coded CRMs. So there's definitely this wave of trying to make things on your own instead of relying on SaaS businesses. So I think that's really impactful. And well, I would have mentioned that if not many hosting groups were switching to SaaS recently now, right? So how is this is going to affect them? And maybe also is this now they will just shift over to AI? I don't know. Like this is one of the things that came up to my mind that I wanted to mention. Another thing is that agencies and how people are, building websites, how people are making, graphic design or like simple websites. I think that the future here is that agencies should really look forward to implementing AI or even make their companies AI driven in terms of creating projects for customers. For example, instead of trying to make a mock-up of a logo, go and generate a bunch of different styles with AI first and make it much faster and cheaper before you go to the actual design process, or there are some Figma to code projects that are making it almost automatic to convert design into the code. So I don't know. Overall, I feel the big excitement because of AI. I feel like it's a combination of FOMO and excitement, that there's something happening, that this is something like a gold rush where people don't exactly know how to use it. They don't know how to connect the dots. They are all trying, but if someone really figures out something very impactful on the business and can make it scalable, you can feel that it can actually reshape many industries. It can be something big. So I don't know. I mean, it's something exciting for me. So what do you think about it?
As for now, I think that most of the AI hype is still only excitement, because you mentioned, for example, that user bases are going down within certain companies, but to be honest, only valuations are going down, but the actual numbers like revenues are still going up and up. quarter by quarter. So I think it's more about the trust and the perception from investors about the long-term gains of or long-term development of certain companies. From the conversations with some founders from really big web hosting companies, that most of the companies which are pushing forward the AI, communication, that they are trusting in AI, they are AI-driven companies. They are doing that mostly because of the story which they would like to sell to the potential investors in the future, right? And from my perspective, that's exactly the point of all of it. So we can use vibe coding tools, but at this stage, it works for some small projects. I think you are able to develop MVP much faster than ever before. But still, it's very hard to think about production-ready and scalable solutions for end customers. So, in the other hand, today, for example, I spent some time on Wix Harmony, so the newest
the new
version
one
of.
They just released it today as of recording of this
Exactly.
video.
Yeah. So I remember when, like 1 year ago, I tried the current version of Site Builder, and it was really awful.
You mean Wix, right?
Yeah, I spent like 1 hour only to receive some really bad quality website, which I didn't want to even try to fix anyhow. And to get first version of it, Wix had to spend like 1 hour or something.
To generate it, you mean, right? So
Yeah.
All the.
It was really, really slow, like watching slow motion movies, man. And today, I was pretty impressed, to be honest, that the progress is there. So I believe that if I would try Wix today and actually try to build a website for myself or for my family, I would be able to do so. Small things like logotype, which you mentioned, was really good. Like I didn't had to modify it even. So the content was really good. The graphic design was really good. So I think that some certain companies are doing good job by using it, but only if they own the platform and they own the whole thing and they are able to actually use it and improve the product. In the other hand, you can see, and you mentioned even this vibe coding also. And if, in my opinion, if someone would win in the future the game regarding how to make next big thing with vibe coding, I think that it would be Google, which owns infrastructure, which owns Gemini. So they can simply connect the dots and automate deployment on their infrastructure. For all other companies, it would be very hard, in my opinion, to build some advantages.
Interesting. AI is a lot about providing enough data, enough context, so it can produce something out. And Google is the company that has probably the most data of them all, right? That's actually interesting. And I also wanted to relate to what you said about the story is that investors. So we were talking about a different scale. We are not talking about small scale, but when you have a company like Hostinger or you have a GoDaddy that we just talked about in the last episode, it's more about the story and the promise for the future, that what you are doing is going to get you results. Nobody cares about the current state unless you are doing something below the expectation, then your price drops, right?
I think that it's more about the risk than opportunities. So till now, web hosting services were treated as cash cows. It was very safe, recurring revenue, everything will be fine. But for the first time, I think, in the history of internet, basically, we see that there might be something which can interrupt these businesses. So
but there's nothing yet, right? So it's more about what's going to happen. What's going to happen?
Exactly. So it's good idea to just polish a bit products, name it AI driven, and most of the investors will buy the story. And let's say that is the true. It's very hard to believe that really small companies, which are making 100 million in revenues, are able to compete with Lovable and ChatGPT and other bazillion solutions. So it's very hard to actually buy the story from my perspective, of course. But I'm more a product guy here.
So the future will tell. But let's talk about these AI builders and vibe coding tools, because there's so much things going on around it actually. So as you said, there's web pros with their Nova. There's 10web around making it around WordPress. On the other hand, we have companies like Hostinger making their own, or I'm not sure about Aira. I haven't been testing Aira. Is it probably? I imagine they have something similar. And also we had some acquisitions recently. Bluehost acquired something as well. And we see the sentiment. We see that people are counting on it, and the big companies are counting on it. But at the same time, we had these discussions before, like how many actual users are using it, and how many actual users are, like, what's the retention of these users after making very first draft or something, right? Because based on my testing, it's always that, you ask it to make you make a simple prompt because you're not gonna like make a very long explanation about your project. So you put some description and it tries to make you something. Sometimes it clicks, sometimes it's not, but it's not the final website. It's not the final project yet, right? So then how many actual users are staying with that, making it to the end? And also, let's not forget about the costs that are not very clear, right? You kind of need to pay for AI credits, and it's not like you don't even know how much you would pay for it. You don't, like, I don't know. Like, I would be really curious to see the numbers of these tools and how many they are really converting these users.
My best shot is, maybe Lovable and other dedicated tools.
Those who invest significantly in the development.
In the future, there is a potential that they will be actually profitable. But let's say, as for me, I think that the better question is, who's the actual target of these tools? Let's say WebPros Nova. What is the target? Can you imagine that small SMB is coming to the web hosting company to use vibe coding tools? Yeah. A few weeks ago, we discussed that Extendify, for example. Let's mention Extendify. So Extendify, the basic idea behind Extendify is to make website building on WordPress easier and fast. That's it. And even that, when user actually want to finish the website, polish it up, user need to jump into DirectAdmin, and it's too hard.
DirectAdmin is confusing and is complicated. Yeah.
In the other hand, we are talking about vibe coding.
I need to stop you here. That in the next episode will be the interview with Artur from Extendify. He has some insights about it actually. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. But still, the answer on the question regarding who's the target is the key to understand if the project or the promise is actual thing, like the company really means to build some advantage, or it's just a story for future investors or future buyer for the business.
So who's the target then?
I don't know, because I'm pretty sure that as a hosting company, I don't think that I would be interested in offering vibe coding tool without strong connection with my other products. But in the defense of WebPros Nova, I can mention that today I spent some time also on the research about this product, and they are promising that this year, as far as I remember, they will offer also some extension into WordPress, for example. So
that it will work on top of WordPress?
Yeah, I think so. Some automation for WordPress and other things. So it might make sense if they would deeply integrate all of that on the top of cPanel or Plesk. Then actually, I think that might be a game changer, because you would be able to automate things like it's the same thing which Hostinger already built, more or less. But still, it's a good direction, in my opinion, how to introduce AI.
But you're talking about the different. So who will be using that then? It's not the end user who just wants to have a simple website.
I think that they are targeting developers and, let's say,
agencies, maybe
web professionals, agencies. But in the other hand, it's very. I simply don't believe that these experienced guys would prefer to use something else than companies which actually focus only on vibe coding, for example.
That's what I wanted to say.
Because
is that okay?
it's pay-per-use, so you need to, as you mentioned, the costs. So you need to figure out how more or less it might cost you, and you need to trust in quality of the product.
Quality is one thing. Remember that there's also the aspect of you have web pros. Oh no, sorry. You start with AI engine, AI provider like OpenAI. On top of that, there's web pros. On top of that, there's hosting company. On top of that, there's the developer. And on the end is the customer who's paying for all of that, right? And everyone needs to get their share.
A lot of demand.
How is that more competitive than just, I don't know, Lovable making it so there's OpenAI, Lovable, and the end customer, right? Also, as you said, is about developers. My biggest concern, so my experience, for example, with just WordPress hosting and Panel Alpha, right? The biggest problem of Panel Alpha to get the market with a certain company is that the company needs to take care of marketing, needs to take care of like the whole marketing funnel, and like they need to educate their customers that there's something new. They need to make some campaigns. They need to integrate everything. And WordPress it's been there for so long. It's not like you need to explain like it's a rocket science, right? It's like something for WordPress. You already know what WordPress is. 70% of your customers are using WordPress. And just promoting new panel, new experience, new level of service is very often a challenge. And I imagine that a hosting company needs to go and say, hey, with this tool, you can now connect your AI to handle workflow, to automate creation of the website across your infrastructure. Like, I just cannot imagine hosting companies can do that, right? It's the same thing like we had the discussion actually with Arthur next week. Is what he said is actually very accurate here, is that WordPress isn't marketing WordPress. These are actually hosting providers who provide WordPress to the end customer, kind of, and they are not so good at it. They rather want to promote that their services are better than the others, rather than focusing around WordPress. But it is fine because that is already a very big established market. But imagine now that the distribution of tool like we said Nova, but 10web is also comparable, I guess, in this case. Imagine now you need to go and like through all these companies that are not so great at promoting just WordPress, which is like already there, promote a completely new product and educate the market and make them actually using it, make them paying for that. Also, let's not forget that the hosting is about cheap price. Let's be real about it. Most hosting providers just compete on the pricing. That's their way to get customers. Now you're offering a product that is not very clear on the pricing, depending on how you use it. But then how effectively can you use it to not spend too much AI credits? I don't know. It just sounds very difficult to pull off. But at the same time, why would you not do that? What, are you gonna stay and look at the other guys doing it? I don't know. That's my feeling.
Yeah, I think that the founders, the hosting businesses, will have to just be passive observers of the situation, because what they can do. So you are paying quite a lot already for control panel, which is necessary to provide your services, right? And it's going up every single year. In the meantime, let's say that I don't believe that WebPros would offer Nova for free for hosting providers. So
why?
There will be additional charge. And if you would like to do anything about it, like really you would like to follow the trend, introduce AI, you would basically destroy your margins. If you would like to just introduce everything with the AI to your customers with the same pricing as they already have. And I, of course, know the answer from any kind of the company which will do that. Just push the pricing up. But it doesn't work like this because there is a competition on the market.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that getting back to the topics of the trends in the industry, I think that the companies which possess own platforms like SiteGround, Hostinger, and others might build this year advantage comparing to every other provider. But let's say that I think that in the regards of the distribution of the apps and let's say the breakdown of the chosen products and the scale of the industry, nothing will change.
So you're saying that it will be not as impactful as people are expecting?
Yeah, I don't believe that it's gonna impact the industry this year anyhow. Maybe within 3 years, but let's say that, okay, getting back to Wix, for example, they might get more market than they did in the past. Of course, that might be impactful, and other companies which are doing site builders and possess big scale and strong brand, they might take more of the market. But let's say that in the regards of shared hosting, VPSs, I don't think that anything will change. Everything will remain, and that's it.
I can just tell you a very interesting part about Wix is that I can see in the graph that last year they were $241 per share on NASDAQ. Now they are 80.
80.
So it's, I don't have any calculation here, like what, 70% drop? And just after this new thing they've released, they got up by about 10%. So that's actually interesting that they lost the same trust thing is because of the mess.
GoDaddy and other companies on the stock market. And who knows, maybe bigger hosting groups might possess the same issue in the future, right?
Interesting. Yeah, it's actually very it makes so much mess now. But at the same time, as you say, there's nothing really.
There is no proof, right? There is no proof that
yet.
AI is changing the industry.
Yeah.
Well, in the end, I think that vibe coding might potentially make our industry bigger because, we were kind of losing customers because of the SaaS solution. In the past, I don't know if you recall, if you wanted to install CRM, for example, you were choosing some open source thing. You just simply use shared hosting. Yeah, it was. And in the end, open source tools lost the fight with software as a service. They were better and constantly improving. With vibe coding, potentially, the things can
shift back. That's interesting. Exactly. Yeah, I wanted to. That's actually interesting. So what we said is that about these people are making their own CRMs because the SaaS, if you have large enough company, this is a very substantial cost for you, right? And it's not very ideal. Like HubSpot, I'm not sure. I've been trying HubSpot a couple of times. Maybe I'm not an expert, but it's super heavy.
Yeah, it is.
So if you can make something that is specifically designed for your processes. And then you need to host it somewhere, right? And then there are hosting companies again.
Just imagine that you had to sometimes hire Atlassian or HubSpot expert to just configure everything and figure out how to actually use it. So it's kind of funny that we ended in the situation like this.
Yeah.
After so many years.
I can actually say that one of the ideas for this year with Panel Alpha, and that's what we were actually talking about this week, is that there are these platforms like Lovable, Versal, or whatever, but you can push your code over to GitHub, and then with Panel Alpha, because Panel Alpha has the Panel Alpha engine, which is based on Docker. Right now it supports only WordPress, right? But we could very easily extend that to host any application based on Docker and making Panel Alpha more like a Docker-based control panel. So you could theoretically pull that project that you've made with AI and host it on your VPS server with Panel Alpha very easily. With some tools, you can make some updates to it, right? You can make a couple of things, but then you can pull this data over to your VPS. One thing is the aspect of hosting it on your own server and maybe lowering the cost. Another aspect is just the privacy of data, right? You don't want to, there's so many mess around privacy now, so having it self-hosted gives you that advantage. So I think there are a lot of angles that actually hosting can get better. And one last thing that I wanted to mention, maybe let's end this topic because it's already too much talking about AI, right? People are sick of it. Is WordPress. Actually, for AI to be effective, it needs some sort of foundation to build things. And there is a trend that I see, at least in the discussions, is that actually WordPress could be a very good foundation for vibe-coded platforms. Why would you want to use something like React-based thing that is very hard to maintain? So remember that when you vibe code something, to some extent it might be good, but then you need to take it over, and what if AI doesn't really understand what you want from it, right? And then you need to code something, making it based on React or those frameworks that these vibe coding tools are using could be a challenge. Now, imagine that you can use WordPress for that, and it's much easier to find someone knowing WordPress, right? It's PHP based, and it's like, it could be a good foundation.
Still, the issue of all of that is who's the target. I'm getting back to this. I'm not a developer. I definitely won't think even about is this React, WordPress, or any other tool. I simply don't care, and my sister won't care. My brother also won't care. They own websites, but they just simply don't care, and that's it.
No, I think in this case we are talking about agencies and
exactly. So I wanted to jump into this. Sense. Exactly. So in the end, I think that AI might simply as that improve the work of agencies, limit the cost of building new websites, new designs, and other things. But in the nearest future, which we can think about, to be honest, and things are moving very fast, but still, it's just about cost optimization, time reduction of doing things. And let's treat it as it is right now.
That's right. All right. Another topic is actually, let's stay with WordPress, is that the trend that I see with Panel Alpha, and something that I also spoke with Vito, for example, from Atarim that has more insight, that agencies are shifting over to become little hosting companies on their own. So the main foundation here is that, there was a big boom during the COVID, and then after that things started to slow down, and all these agencies that were just going project after project done, we need to have another one, notice that, hey, maybe it would be nice to have a solid recurring revenue. We could make more money. This recurring revenue foundation, it makes it easier. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, because I can clearly see. I can see that, for example, WP Cloud is getting to this segment. There's also a thing with WebPro's Cloud, right? I think they are thinking about the agencies, actually, because not hosting providers, right? Like, what do you think about this trend?
This trend, I believe, is from like 10 years already. The first project which was actually successful in this regard was Get Flywheel, which is, they were acquired by VP Engine. So, it's continuing from my perspective, and it always was there. Hosting reseller, so packages with possibility to create users. It was there always.
Resellers, yes.
At some point, from my perspective as a hoster, there was a switch not in this direction, so opposite, to be honest. So a lot of the agencies which were using some reseller packages were moving from this kind of the services into typical shared hosting. And the reason is very simple. They don't want to support end customer in the regards of hosting, because you don't want to answer on email, where is the message which I sent to the guy, he's telling me that he didn't get an email, and all of the other crazy stories which you can find on the support of every single web hosting company. So in one hand, of course, it's nice revenue, nice additional revenue for agency. In the other hand, it's a lot of the tickets which you need to answer with, let's be honest, low margins and low price. In the end, low revenue. Because if you would build website for 1,000, you would need to sell this hosting package for what? 100 to 200 per year. And you need to answer on emails for entire year. Of course, 90% of the users won't ask about anything, but those 10% might generate huge amount of work. Again, there was a trend of agencies using only shared hosting combining with affiliation programs. And I think that based on this model, a lot of the hosting companies, which are actually big right now, build their success. Hostinger is one of them, in my opinion. Right now, is there actually a trend like this because I don't see any statistics. And when I'm watching my, let's say, the businesses which I am supporting, I can't see anything like that.
Okay. I don't know. I'm just looking from my perspective. Maybe that's my little bubble, right? So, that's also something that I was even thinking about. Like, why would you want to make your own hosting business unless you have a scale enough that you can hire like 2-3 guys full time? I don't know. Maybe some agencies have such a scale, but then I don't know. At the same time, you're giving away users to the hosting companies, and then you don't have any, like, if the affiliates are lifetime, then it would make sense.
It's not better to recommend user to hosting company which will pay you commission every single year, and you don't care about any kind of the technical detail of the infrastructure?
I think so. Yeah, I also think so. It's not that I approve it, right? It's just like I see that coming.
Well, I think that the trend is, maybe there is a trend, but the source of it is in a different place. So we should talk about the quality and possibilities of web hosting in general. So let's say that you are an agency and you don't want to receive some complaints in the future from your client about the infrastructure. And so, for example, the popular business model of agencies is that they are building website, and in the end they are offering some maintenance of this website for a certain period of time. And in the meantime, they struggle sometimes with questions or issues of their customers, because which is potentially generated by the infrastructure. So CPU limits in general, and lacking of some potential features, or just simply as the quality in general. So what typical user need to do? Switch to the other hoster, or the website is too big for typical shared hosting? So again, the migration is necessary to move customer from typical, let's say, cPanel account into VPS. Maybe to make it more secure, and you would like to maybe possess some high availability for the infrastructure, then you need to hire sysadmin, blah 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 blah, entire story. So it's too much, in my opinion, and that is the source of the issues. Because customers in the end need to struggle with figuring out, or agency need to figure out what to do with the infrastructure, and they are not getting money for it. So sometimes it makes sense to just use VP Cloud, for example, and just don't resign from thinking about the infrastructure, pay even high price just to keep things moving forward, and just focus on your work. So website maintenance, for example. So that is the trend, and of course I can agree, but I don't think it's something bigger than that.
I also think that this is an opportunity, and I think that you've mentioned that Hostinger was big with the reseller programs, right, or affiliates. But I also think this is a big opportunity. I think there is a big opportunity for hosting providers to explore just better relation with agencies, giving them more flexibility, giving them better like reseller level control, but still taking care of the infrastructure and support. And that's Rocket.net, I think, has been very, very solid in this strategy.
Yeah, that is the good case, to be honest.
Yeah.
But still, the essence is here again the same. If you own the product development, if you taking care of product development within your own hosting company or not. Because if not, it's up to your software vendor, and you can't do too much, let's be honest. So the companies like Rocket, DirectAdmin, Kinsta, GetFlywheel, Hostinger, SiteGround, they are doing complex things and nice things because they can. That's it. And in my opinion, the issue is with, of course, software vendors, and till now it didn't change, and I don't think that it will change in the future. We still have to pay for the softaculs,
to install WordPress, right, on the server.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that it's still not provided by just software vendor of your control panel.
Although some do. And you need to pay extra for it, by the way.
If I need to pay extra, then it's a typical game of business case. So is it worth it or not? Softaclus is cheaper or not, I don't care, to be honest. If I'm paying some money to be able to provide hosting services, which should be competitive at the market, then I just shouldn't care about, what's included, what should be done there. I'm ceding my rights to develop products on my software vendor, and I should hope that they will do their best to follow the trends, right? Which are from Softaclus was introduced 2011 or something. Yeah, it's only for 14 years, so maybe they will deliver.
Let's hope so, yeah. Before we move forward, I would like to thank our gold sponsors who help us grow web hosting today and this podcast. Extendify, Name Hero, PatchStack, Monarchs, and Panel Alpha. These companies, just like web hosting today, bring real value to the web hosting industry. If you'd like to join us and make your brand more visible to decision makers in the industry, feel free to reach out. Right, so let's talk actually about product changes in the industry, because that is actually very strong trend. You already mentioned that when we were talking about AI, that the big guys that have full control over their product will actually be even like the distance between the small guys that are relying on third-party systems and then the big guys that have their own, the distance will be even bigger with AI innovation and all the stuff around it. But of course, we said that it's still not converting. It's still not like significant part of the business. But what do you think about the product changes this year? Let's say other than AI.
Well, I don't see any kind of the different trends, and I think that this year will be all about AI and everyone will just focus on AI. But let's be honest, there is a huge space where you can introduce AI and make it somehow useful for your customers. Even stupid, domain search engines, they can say that it's AI driven, but we tried together to find a name for us and we struggled for a few hours and we just left it.
The name for the main brand on top of all that we are doing right now is INBS software, which is something that I made up like 15 years ago. It's not that we want to make a nice name, and finding a nice name that with .com available. Yeah, with different approaches and brainstorming is really I hate it. I hate finding the name for the project. Yeah,
exactly. And again, just imagine, I think that the good case here, again, would be Hostinger. I know that you're a fanboy. I am
a fanboy, yeah.
I'm resisting. But all right, they figure out actually how AI can make products more useful for the customers and how customers can engage with different services. I think that there might be two trends, not one. So VP Engine and Your Online acquired agencies, right?
That's another thing I wanted to talk about, yes.
Exactly. So even Dreamhouse introduced free websites included with hosting package.
Free do-it-for-me websites, like full development of a website included in the hosting package, which is actually crazy. Yeah.
So I think that hosting providers will focus in next years on providing complex cycle of the services. But I think that it's not a good direction, to be honest, because it's
to go towards agencies to do it for me.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's very hard to maintain these services and actually sell these services to your customers. The customers which actually came to you, most of them just used some cooperation with a freelancer or agency. Again, it makes sense when you are a VP Engine and you are acquiring some enterprise level support for the websites. So it's good for your brand, in my opinion, that you can even offer something like that. And it suits you, to be honest. It's a good add-on. But the different story is when you buying an agency with goal to cross-sell services of this agency to your hosting customers. Thousands of hosting companies tried that in the past, and it's simply not scalable. You can't just grow this.
Yeah, it's tricky, as you say. So when the customer goes to the hosting company to have a hosting account because they already have a website, or I don't know, like there's like how many % of the customers go to the hosting company and they want to build an entire website? Like you need to make the entire marketing around it. You need to like start selling websites. You need to start promoting building websites instead of just a hosting service, right? It's a completely different game. So what I said about WordPress hosting, it's not easy. Then you need to start educating the market that you have this service that is competitive. Why would you use us and not your agency? Or outreach, like we were talking about that so imagine someone calls you and they ask you, hey, you have an old website, would you want us to make a new website? Like how many like it's not, I don't know if it's that effective.
It's too tricky. Okay, I think that in the end web hosting is all about symbiosis between web hosting provider and agencies and freelancers. So we need to cooperate together because in the end, the end user, as for now, needs our help. So if there is some issue with the infrastructure, it's our responsibility as a hosting provider. If there is an issue with the website, user typically contact agency, or if there is no maintenance paid for to the agency, they are contacting hosting provider still. And hosting provider don't want to do that, but they are doing that only because they don't want to be this bad provider which can't help with the website and they broke the website of the customer, right? It's typical review of every hosting provider. So getting back to the topic, I think that you can't generate any conflicts with your agencies and freelancers which are currently hosting websites of their customers with you. And you should not push one agency to your customers. I think that there is a potential of owning agency to provide some website maintenance for the customers. So you can actually help customer and get some additional revenue. Even, some services of website maintenance make sense, and it should be included, in my opinion, within every web hosting offer. But trying to cross-sell new websites to your actual customers, that's kind of tricky.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so the trends again, and so we are
that's
discussing...
one trend, the do-it-for-me trend, which you don't think is the big thing because new website is hard to be sold by
web hosting companies are going there. They are looking for additional revenue. The market is flat, so they need to figure out something how to take some money from the customers. But it's all right because the customer still spends those money somewhere. So it's all about to who they are sending this money. So you can, of course, figure this out and offer some additional services, but the issue with that is that, again, software vendors. So the ideal scenario, the dream scenario, is that you can integrate deeply all of the services and easily cross-sell additional things to your customers. So let's say that you are offering mailing systems, like we are using MailChimp, for example, right? So if this MailChimp would be deeply integrated into, let's say, cPanel, and within cPanel you can see, all right, send mailing to your customers, additional 100 per month, let's say, and you can just click it and it will be built by a hosting provider, and it will be sent automatically without additional configuration of your
you will get
account.
Reports on open rates and all the stuff.
Simply as that, just turn it on, then it might make sense. And as far as I can see, that is a trend from some time, and it will move forward this year especially, because I think that what I can see is that the companies which left some bigger external software vendors, they are focusing more on the products, integrations, and offering something more complex. You are a fan of Hostinger. What I can see is that SiteGround is doing a good job too. GoDaddy also. And probably there is much more companies like that.
Ultahouse, I can say Ultahouse is also pushing a lot.
Ionos, I think, is also doing a thing. Yeah. All right. So there are companies which are taking care of things like that.
So you're saying that, but it makes sense, right? If you have full control over the product and you actually think about the product, think about your customer, about the use cases of your customer, if you can make it easier for them, if you can figure out what are they doing, offer them something extra based on what they are using. Like you said with MailChimp, don't offer MailChimp to anyone. Offer it to only the guys who are intensively sending email. Maybe they need something better.
Exactly.
If you have
They
control over the
should be
product,
even recommended.
you can be much more effective in that to get to the customers, but you need to have that control over the product, because we know that the foundation of the hosting industry, so all the legacy control panels, just don't do that. They don't really even think about it that much, and they focus on their own things. I mean, that's something that I try to do with Panel Alpha, but we don't have such a big market share yet, and it's gonna take time to get there. That's what we want to do with Admin Bolt as well, to break the status quo and help the companies push things forward. I mean, but there is some hope in this.
Yeah, we can jump smoothly into what do you think will happen with control panels this year? Of course, we are doing Admin Bolt, and of course we want to conquer the market. But beside that, more and more companies moving from cPanel or Plesk, even DirectAdmin, and jumping into own platforms. What do you think about that?
Yeah. So one thing is obviously so with the price increases that they happen, and I guess to some extent people get used to it, but I think that every company has their own limits. Like you have smaller companies that can, like there are big companies that are not doing it because they are fine, but every year you get this message, and it's like one day it will break or you lose your competitiveness because
exactly.
At the same time, you're competing with the other players on the market. You cannot endlessly just increase your pricing because your vendor did that. There's a market.
What do you think what will be the issue here? The pricing itself, of course, bigger every single year, but the pricing or the lack of product development?
I mean, that's the second part, right? So if you were talking about like we were talking that what happened in the industry before AI was really that you have these big guys that push new things every quarter, every month. Literally, Hostinger is pushing some new innovation to their customers. So I would refer to what you said before, that the distance from the small guys and the big guys that are pushing forward and make it as a product would be bigger. And they will be just losing the game. I don't know. And on top of that, AI and this whole revolution that people are looking for new things. And I don't know, like, how can you win with that?
I just figure out one thing, which is pretty interesting, I think. Years ago, it was a good idea to promote yourself as a cPanel hosting provider. Every bigger provider just had on the landing page just cPanel hosting.
Yeah.
Right now, what happened with that?
Yeah.
In the past, cPanel was
this industry leader, the standard that people were looking for.
Exactly. It was it was impressive to possess cPanel hosting. It was a good idea to use it within your marketing, materials and other things. So cPanel was the thing and key to get customer actually.
But people were specifically looking for cPanel because it was reliable, solid.
Yeah, but if you would just launch right now websites of top 10 web hosting companies worldwide,
they are not using
just name
cPanel.
one of them. Yeah. Well, Namecheap still use cPanel, and probably GoDaddy is using cPanel. But they are not treating cPanel as advantage as they did in the past. And that's something new. Maybe it's not new. Nobody saw that. I didn't, for sure. But we are discussing that, few months or even years ago, that cPanel hosting is still a standard for the market. But I don't think it's
the thing anymore. You think that it's changing?
Yeah, the fastest growing companies in the world are not using cPanel. That's the thing.
That's actually interesting thing. But do you think it's because lack of innovation in cPanel that these new guys are having, or like what's the reason for it?
It's a really tricky question. All right, so I think that it depends from the perspective of the company. I mean, for example, some hosting groups are focusing strictly on keeping things as they are, so they don't want to do anything which
Risk.
put their growth into the risk, so they don't care about it too much, and they are focusing strictly on keeping things as they were in the past. But the companies which are trying and thinking about taking the market, like taking more of the market share, they need to focus on the product development and actually build some advantage comparing to others. So it's a lot of when we were at the Domains Day Dubai, there was a presentation from a certain software vendor, and they mentioned that they are introducing this cloud thing, and it's super great because you as a hosting provider should focus only on the support and marketing. In the past, there were companies which trusted Microsoft with the licenses and offering Windows hosting, and they were all screwed because of Azure. And as for me, it's the same story. So you need to build your advantage. If you would like to remain independent and you would like to grow and get some more certainty that you will grow in the future, you just need to take care of your product development, because you will lose with the guys like Hostinger. So you can just observe that and increase the pricing or increase the affiliate program commissions or increase your marketing budget.
Right. How can you stay competitive? Yeah.
Exactly. You need to do something about the product. So what? You would still pay a higher invoice every single year, and what you are receiving in return.
I don't know. cPanel is a stable system, right? cPanel is a stable system. Like,
of course, it is stable.
A great
sure,
system,
so it is. But if you would like to remain competitive, as you mentioned, so you still need to invest and keep your product development teams, which will do something about, for example, AI.
Right, but wait, but we are roasting cPanel so much, but I don't know, there's DirectAdmin. They don't increase the pricing, or they did, but it's not like that substantial, let's say.
Yeah, but DirectAdmin is cheaper.
Does it change anything?
Much cheaper.
If you would switch over to DirectAdmin, would it change anything? You can only be competitive on the price. Is this your goal, to be competitive on the pricing?
If you would
Is this the long-term plan?
If you would like to do anything about the product development, I think that companies should actually own their platforms. I'm building a control panel.
And we are building a control panel, yeah.
Yeah, and, in the one hand, of course, there are plans. Like, we will be different, right? And we are believing in that. So we will introduce open source version, some plugins repository, just make it open for people, right? So they can modify it however they want. Of course, that is our goal, and probably we're going to do that. Yeah. It will sound like our self-promotion here.
It is.
Yeah, it is. That's true. But with a good purpose, right? And again, what do you think a hosting provider might do when they are using Plesk or cPanel
or DirectAdmin?
Let's say Enhance even.
Okay.
And those tools are not pushing forward, or they are not following the trends fast enough. Like, let's say you would like to stay competitive comparing to SiteGround and GoDaddy, even maybe not GoDaddy, but Hostinger and Ionos and SiteGround. What you can do, or even Rocket, VP Engine, Insta, and others.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, how can you compete with that? I mean, but there's another thing to it, and that's what I've mentioned a couple of times in the big article I wrote, why hosting companies are slow. Remember about the mentality of the hosting providers. They were doing the business for 20 years, and they were like, things were just growing and things were moving relatively slowly. Now it all accelerated, but most people still have the same mindset. They rather wait. They are not that fast. They don't have the need for innovation in like they are not used to be this development mode where you're constantly moving forward with a lot of innovation. You cannot change that just by having, hey, we need something cool. You really need to have that in your organization. You really need to reshape that. I think I can say I will also have an episode with James Webb from Wix. I think he and James, I think, was one of the guys that actually shifted Big Scoots to the absolutely new direction when they have made their product really interesting and innovative, and they really started pushing forward. But you really need to make a huge jump as a founder of the company. It's not easy, and not many people know how to do this. You really need to change your strategy basically and switch from being just a hosting to a product company. It's not that you can just do it right like that.
Of course, but that is a huge risk, right? You need to spend tons of money on actual product development, and you're still dependent, and you're still a cash cow for your software vendor. So that is the essence of the issue from my perspective. And there is another interesting thing regarding that.
Again, let's not roast cPanel. Like, there are so many... DirectAdmin is very popular in Poland. But doesn't it change anything that you are using DirectAdmin? No, nothing. It's not really related to the vendor. I wouldn't say that it's the biggest issue here.
It depends also from the market, I think. Product development in Poland is way behind,
But I can see a lot of analogies anywhere in the world. I don't think we're that much behind.
That's true.
Other than the very big brands, worldwide brands, it's not easy to be that kind of company that you are talking about.
It's not easy, of course. I didn't mention that.
Yeah, but let's end this discussion because it's going to be an endless
last
spiral.
thing, which is quite important to mention, in my opinion, is that where cPanel makes sense, and it's very important to possess cPanel, for example, is when you are trying to sell the business, because most of the buyers already made entire acquisition process all about cPanel migration and cost synergies there. So
there's a good part of it, right? If you were talking about
course it
exit.
Is. Yeah, if you are using cPanel, just think about exit.
That's your best shot, yeah. I mean, it's last topic that I wanted to mention, Łukasz, from the trends is NIS2, which is the EU law that started from, I think, January this year, right? Is from this year, requiring like very solid security measures from the hosting providers, like backups, monitoring, patching, incident response. There are very strict rules for, like, whenever there's an incident, you must report it in 24 hours and you get very high penalty. And the management is personally responsible and not just the tech team in the companies. The fines can reach even millions of euros, and it makes a lot of mess because it's not easy to set up. So as you're working with some hosting companies that are implementing that, tell me what's the problem and what it can cause.
From my perspective, EU is all about regulation. After that, about more regulations. So basically, it requires from you as a web hosting company that you need to make things and keep things professional. So you need to make plans. You need to possess good monitoring and logs and be able to prove everything, like from, how you mitigate some attacks, like DDoS, even attacks on your infrastructure.
You need to have in the policy of the company, you say?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And into even supply chains. You need to possess some documentation about it, and from that to backups and other things. So my perspective is simply is that big companies are able to easily solve all of that. Smaller companies need to spend bazillions of dollars or euros actually on lawyers which can figure out and translate all of those regulations into language of normal people. From my perspective, it's pretty, every single year is getting more risky for providers, and especially small providers. So if you are bigger, you are able to, you possess probably some corporation or even hired a lawyer within some legal advice.
You have your own legal team in the company. Yes.
You can just, introduce everything what's necessary, create additional paperwork, and that's fine. If you're bigger, you comply already everything, like from backups to security things. So it should be fine, right? That there are trainings, the onboarding, proper onboarding of the employees. You create process for everything, right? So it's not hard to get into those new regulations for you. But if you're a small agency,
I know where this conversation is going.
Yeah, but if you are a small agency, you need to figure this out. You are responsible for that. So it's
So the best idea is just to sell your business. Contact us now for M&A advisory right now, and we will help you get out of this.
Exactly.
Sorry, I had to do this.
All right. No, but it's also about those trends, which we discussed earlier. So if you are a small agency and you are just running VPS server or managed VPS server, you need to still comply all of that. And when it's fine. But where things will go south, you will struggle. You are even if you are a limited liability company, you as a board member, you will be responsible for everything what's going on.
Which is crazy, actually, if you think about it. Yeah,
it is. And you are personally responsible for that. And it's very wide, like, defining data leaks into backup policies, access policies, and other things. So in the end, if you would like to comply and you are a small business, like 10 employees, then you need to spend really quite a bit of time to just comply your hosting business. And
I don't know. You're talking about lawyer costs. I would say AI credits.
It's
maybe
lawyer
at most.
costs, but still, yeah, of course, that's true. But still, you need
will take care of that. Yeah.
Even I think that even with ChatGPT, you would spend days just to create all of those paperwork.
No,
but
sure,
still, your employees need to, also comply on the daily basis. So your backup policy should be, proper, let's say.
So you would pay to your lawyer to do that, to use ChatGPT to do that for you, because we know how lawyers are using ChatGPT. No, but I understand. I'm laughing, but it's actually a very serious threat to the business. One of the threats that you have in back of your head when you're making, you want to do the business, and in the back of your head is like, holy, and you don't exactly know. It's like very wide, like you said. So it's not precise. I don't think they will be that hard on it, but would you risk it? Eh? But at the same time, does it really change anything? Like, do you think it's really that impactful? Like suddenly
it change things when something will go wrong.
No, but I mean, from the regulator point of view, why they are pushing this? Is it really that revolutionary? Do we make the web better and safer place?
As for me,
it's just a burden for the companies
stupid.
It's just a burden for the companies to comply with some.
Yeah, but it's a global market, right? So a lot of the European companies are using hosting providers from the US, let's say, or South Africa.
Yeah.
And they don't need to comply with any of those regulations. And that's, for me, it's funny, actually. All of the things regarding your data protection. And in the meantime, ChatGPT will provide everything about you just like that. It's just not smart to over-regulate the market. And that is one of the examples of the bad things in the EU which are happening, in my opinion.
All right, guys, let's end with that. I mean, that was the most boring part of our discussion, is the regulation, but it is actually an impact to the business, as we spoke with a few guys from Europe already about that, and they are. I mean, it's concerning. Like, it's just another thing that you need to take care of.
The last thing about that is, that even if you are a domain registrar, you are responsible right now for the private data which are customers providing to you. So you need to verify, is the guy providing you actually correct and proper information about address or name and surname.
And that's actually the most crazy part. We actually forgot about that, but that's actually the craziest part of this, is that how could you even possibly verify every single customer? And we are talking about the scale of even tens of or even hundreds of thousands of customers. Yeah, good luck with finding out if they provided the right detail.
Exactly. And
in
the other hand, you can't ask about the scan of the ID or anything like that. So people can easily bullshit you, and you can't do anything about that.
And you are legally responsible. It's just fine.
Yep.
It's just ridiculous. Yeah. All right, guys. Let's end with that. I know it was the boring ending about the regulation, but it is a real threat and another headache for the business owners. Remember that we provide M&A consulting. There's always a different. There's always a different way. Yeah. Right, guys. So let's end with that, with this funny ending, and see you guys in the next 2 weeks with another episode.
Yeah, thank you for watching.